So, ready as we'll ever be, Bernie.
Okay. Well, I mainly want to see the knife white, all this side of it. So I'm not sitting here next week going,
we're gonna
oh my
make,
God.
We're going to make sure that's
Okay. Because
really,
the IT guy's not here, is he? That guy.
Dylan, no.
Yeah, Dylan, yeah.
So where's all my demonstrators? But they're all over there. Ali, how you doing?
Yeah, good. These people, the other one, three groups, they haven't got their names in the list. I put them here and they will write their names on paper.
It's pretty good. There's quite a few people.
Ali, the guy, he's back to us. He'll fix you up. You may need to do it in an hour later. How will you set when they open? That's been set pre-scheduled.
It's just scheduled. So this is going to open at 6:30. So before 6:30, we just have to say hello and introduce ourselves.
No, this is sort of next week. I think I'm going to have the phone and an alarm go off at 6:29 or something saying, guys, time to start.
Oh, it should be here.
Is there a 26? Oh, there you go.
Sit behind number 5 there, okay? And take paper, first name, surname, and give it to me.
can we? This one. That works, yeah. So, can we all hear me? I think we can. Come in, come in. So you need to find Ali, that guy up there. He'll help you. Well, first of all, see if you can find your name on the board there. So I'm just going to start, everyone. It's a very big class, so hopefully we'll quieten down as we get along. So all we have to do at the beginning is introduce ourselves, actually, because so the first test that we're going to do is going to start at 6:30. Okay, so it's 6:10 now. So at 6:30, the test is going to open, and you're all going to do the test. Hopefully, you've read a bit of the pre-reading material and got an idea of the schedule of this class, right? So first, we do the individual test, and then we're all going to do the group test. Okay, the individual test, so even for the people here, runs in Moodle. So probably it's best if I get the introductions out of the way, and then as quick as possible, I'll show you how to find the test in Teams if you haven't found it already. Okay, so my name's Edward. I'm Dr. Edward Obbard, and I'm in this School of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering. Oh, there's nothing there. Aha, there you go. Don't worry, you didn't miss anything. It was just the header slide. So you can probably tell already I'm from England, aren't I? I've got a funny English accent. I went to the University of Nottingham, and I did a master's there in mechanical design, materials, and manufacture, which was, I don't know what to say about it. It was great. And then I did a PhD much later, and I did my PhD in the Chinese Academy of Science in Shenyang. So some of you will have seen the funny Chinese message I put on Moodle to try and get information out of you. And that was me talking to you. So then my industrial experience is, actually I didn't do a kind of classic academic career. So right after I graduated with my PhD, I worked as an engineer. And I worked at ANSTO, which is the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation, building that sort of machine that you can see there. That's a nuclear facility. That's for handling radioactive materials. And that's what turned me into a project manager, right? It's a funny story. I won't tell it now. There isn't time. But in the end, I thought I was going to be a scientist, but I became a project manager. And you know what? It's not so bad. It's actually not so bad. And anyway, now I'm a scientist again, so there's no harm done, right? And at UNSW, I teach nuclear engineering mostly. And I teach student projects too. That's a picture there of my Maker Games team, which won last year, which was really fun. So some of our demonstrators gave me slides before the lecture. This is Dylan. He's not here, unfortunately. He's doing a robotics competition, and he'll be back in week 3. And then also we've got Ramanashri. Yeah. Do you want to have the mic, Ramanashri? Go on. You have to have both of them. I'm sorry.
Hey guys, I'm currently doing my master's in manufacturing engineering and management. I'm in my term 4 now. I'm a student here too, similar like you guys, but I'm a demonstrator too. Like, have been having a project manager before coming here. Have a work experience of 2 years, like in a conveyor manufacturing industry, where I dealt with many of the things and that's the reason why Sir chose me to be here as a demonstrator for you guys. At any point of time, anything you have, any doubts, please feel free to email me and ask me. Like I'll do my best so that I can help you guys to go with flying colors, pass with flying colors this subject. And this subject is not only the subject which you need to do your academic things, but you need to really understand what this subject teaches you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ramana. Where's Tamil? It's all right. Well, I'm going to put the slide back in on another day. You could do it because we are pushed for time. The person who I really want to introduce, though, is Mr. Hayes. Bernie, do you want to say what you're doing?
Yeah. I'll have a few slides next week, but my name's Bernie Hayes. I'm sort of co-lecturing some of the lectures on this. My background predominantly is in the power industry. I did a little bit in steel and petrochemicals, but probably 95% of my career was in power industry. Over the years, I started, I guess, as a design engineer, did construction engineering, ended up doing projects in the general sense, did project execution, which is probably more the classic part of project management. And then the latter part of my career, I was in sales and development, which is, when we get into the course, you'll see, is the earlier part of project management. So that's my general background. I'll give you a bit more detail next week. We're sort of sharing the lecturing between weeks. Ed's going to be away some weeks, and I'm doing those lectures, and I guess he'll give you a little bit more detail on which one he does and I do later tonight. But yeah, that's my background, and that's who I am if you see me next week.
Thanks, Bernie. I don't have any other people's introduction slides, but as I said, maybe it would be fun if we kind of space them out or something throughout the term. Now, okay, so the first thing we have to do actually is not this lecture. It's to show you, so have you all got your computers with you? Most of you have. Can you find this Moodle quiz? Okay, so go to the Teams website. And we could do something like, if you can't find it, put up your hand, okay? And one of the demonstrators will help you out. Yeah, that's good, because it will be available at 6:30. I hope. Yeah. So we've actually got a bit of time, haven't we? Come on, shall we have someone else introduce themselves? Come on, Tamil. We've got your slide. Where's Tamil gone? Come on.
Hello everyone, I'm Tamil Selvan. I'm currently pursuing my Master's in Manufacturing and Management. This is my first demonstration course, so I'm hoping you'll be learning together. And my project management experience is quite, it's not that good. And
You did this course last year.
yes, so I completed this course in term 2 last year, and I worked on a project in the improvement of quality in a gears production organization. So that's it about me.
Well
Hope
done.
you all have a good course. Thank you.
Has anyone still got their hand up? Everything looks really peaceful and kind of easy. Is it really like that? So far, so good. Yeah. Because that's the team one. You need to find the individual one. Whoops.
So the one that you opened.
access for page page. I guess probably from the backend, some students kick out that box. Maybe I don't know. It's double checking. I don't know whether there are some other students.
What's happened? Oh, I know what I've forgotten to say. Are there any, if there's any people watching this streaming, which I really hope there are, I forgot to say hello. So hello to people who are streaming this course. And I also forgot to say that if you're streaming this course, you can also do this quiz. This is something we've done quite carefully, okay? So please can all the people who are not here and who are watching the course on the stream also go to the Moodle quiz that we've been organising here. Maybe, I don't know, if maybe you could send some messages on Teams or something if you're there and if you can hear me talking and if you're finding the quiz in the correct tab. And certainly the demonstrators will see it. That would be fun and sort of reassuring for us as well to know that people are watching it out there, because that was the plan. Jingyi, is anyone making a noise? Or actually, everyone can see it. So if people who are away make a noise, you should all see their messages as well. Go on, somebody. Activity. Are there any messages coming from people off-site? Silence. Silence in the ether. Well, I hope they're doing okay, and I hope they can find this quiz. Jing, are you on the Teams?
Yeah, I'm on the Teams.
That's the wrong one.
It's not wrong.
It's up. You're not there. Oh no. I'll have a look. Oh no, hey, recording people, somebody says the lecture tab still shows no video. It's meant to be live, isn't it?
I have a screen that said quiz in progress. I switched it back. There's a 20-second delay from what you say and what they hear.
Oh, is that all though? But they should see it then.
They should. I'll switch it back now. Try talking again.
I got someone else says, it seems like this live stream does not work well. Of course, it depends where they are. But, all right, well, it's 6:30, everyone, so can you see if the quiz is opened? Hooray! Off you go then. Go. You've got 12 minutes. Do your best. Because, okay, today this is not graded, but in the future these quizzes will be graded. Okay, so this is a practice. And please work on your own, okay? Because we're going to... There's the next stage of this process when you do the quiz together. But for now, this is your mark, and you do the quiz on your own, okay? So... Let me see. Looks good.
Still having you?
Yeah, yes, it's working. Oh, that's the wrong one. Your team test. So go to Teams. Introduction. Oh, you're in the mobile app. More. IRAT one. There you go.
The pre-reading is under file. That's what this means.
No. It's
What's the pre-reading?
instructions.
Instructions?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's odd. Okay. It's okay. Don't worry. I mean, well, we give them the. Is anyone having a terrible time accessing the test online? You can do it on paper if you like. I don't want you to miss out. Okay, just do it. If you can't manage to do it on paper.
For a few of them, it says that
see what we're doing.
Okay.
He's not enrolled, Ali.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Extra programs to avoid confusion. I named them like 26A, 26B, 26C, D.
Yeah, you can call them anything.
Because the other groups start with 27.
Yeah. Okay.
So I call them like what number would
You
like,
can call them 30 something.
yeah, later on, just like now.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Ali. It's not obvious enough. So, yeah, and soon you can start. Oh, no, let them finish it.
One each group.
Sorry?
One each group.
Ali, wait till they finish. Wait till they finish. Oh, I think they have finished. Okay, everyone submit your answers because the quiz is finished now. Okay, everyone, so now our demonstrators are going to hand out scratch cards. Okay. And the purpose of these scratch cards, okay, is that now you're going to do exactly the same quiz together. So you can look at this tab in your Teams browser if you like. It's a pity I can't see it on the screen there, but you should be able to find it, okay? So it's TRAT1 questions. Okay, so find this tab in your computer. So week 1 channel, TRAT1 Qs. Okay? And so you've all been given a scratch card. So on that scratch card, write the number of your team, because you're going to hand them in at the end. Okay? And so what you do is say I look at this question, and I think A is not considered a project preparing the site for the Olympic Games. So shall I even show you? Look, can I have a scratch card? Can I have a scratch card, please? Ranjani? Thanks. So, here we go. So let's say, can you all see A? Remember A was, if I think the answer to question 1 is A, I'll go scratch, 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 scratch. And then I'll find that I was wrong, you see? And then I say, oh no, I'm wrong. Because the way we're going to mark the scratch cards is you get 2 points if you get it right first time, you get 1 point if you get it right second time, and then you get no points if you get it right third time, I'm afraid. So you have to try and get it right first time. So what actually is the answer? Maybe it's designing a space station. Scratch, 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 scratch. Oh, no, it's not designing a space station either. So you should have some idea about question 1 now. But now you can do this together, okay? The whole point is that you should now talk to the people in your team and actually share your knowledge to find out what you got, okay? It's exactly the same questions. The whole point is that it's the same questions, okay? Because this will make you talk about it.
You might want to, so when you submit the IRAD, you can see the correct answer.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I think when you put it in your pocket, you turn this one off.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah, but you have to switch it.
Oh, dear, I'm sorry.
You can pop them back in now.
Sorry? You're meant to be using... well, I've just showed you up on the tab here, Week 1 Introduction tab. I'll just show you on the screen again. There's a tab with all the questions in it. Yep. So now, for the people who are streaming the lecture, you can also find this TRAT test in a Teams tab. Okay, so there's now a group quiz in Moodle with these questions in. So I hope that you can try this test remotely. It may not be perfect, but please let us know how it goes. Okay, and I hope that some of you are trying it now. Thank you. Maybe for the benefit of people who are not here, I'll show them where this test is. So the people who are not here can go to here it is, TRAT 1. Okay, so there you go. It's actually going to open in 2 minutes. We're a little bit early with the scratch cards. So when it opens, please have a go and let us know how it goes. Right, I'm going to go back to the big picture of the questions now. You noticed something. Really? Well
Thing right there.
I know. Oh, good. You got them all right.
for themselves.
Really, we want them to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you should be. Oh, how come you've got? Are you in a different group? Oh, we only need one. We finished, and you got them all right. That was a bit of a mistake somewhere, but yeah. Of course, I know. Do you know how to get a report by question so I can see?
How many students?
Like, I want to know if the question was hard or not.
Report.
Yeah, but it doesn't do anything. I mean, it just shows me the same as this.
I try.
You try. I mean, I tried downloading a PDF. I mean,
But it's Excel.
you want to try that? That is the report.
This button doesn't work. I don't know how
Yeah, it
to
does.
It doesn't.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So Yeah. And then
So I want to see like how many people got question 1 right, how many people got question 2 right.
so if
Oh, you
right
just
is,
sum it up.
yeah, yeah. If it's right, it's 1, and
Yeah,
not
okay,
right, it's
okay,
0.
great. Look, so we can just go. Oh, actually.
Add the filter.
It's not right. Doesn't that work? This must be text and not numbers.
Can we add a filter? Why doesn't go back?
Never mind, you. Just
Add a filter and you select 1 and so
forget it. I'll just ignore it. Right, so I think everyone's more or less finished. Am I right? Is there anyone who isn't finished? No? Okay, so please will you all add up your scores on your scratch cards? And write your group name on them, your group number, and hand them to the demonstrators. And then we'll be done with the scratch cards.
in a group, and I said, do we want to work together?
Oh, dear.
They just say, we are all okay.
Oh, well, we need to send Ali up to see them. So it'll be a bit late because I need it now. That's the thing. So quickly. Okay, everyone. So it's the end. It's the end of the test. And look, thank you for coming this far with us, because I realise that the test in some ways was not perfect, because there were an awful lot of full marks, weren't there? I don't think everyone was that clever. I'm not sure. But it's okay, because it's just a practice, right? So I hope you get the idea of what we're trying to do, because it's a really interesting exercise to do when the rules are tight, because the rules were a bit loose today, weren't they? But when the rules are tight, you find with these tests that when you take it as a team, you always get a much better score than when you take it on your own. I don't know why you're all so clever, because we did this test with our demonstrators like last week, didn't we? What did you guys get? Yeah. But like when they all did it together, you got 8, I think? 8, I think you got when you did it all together. And that was much higher than they got on their own. So if you guys are doing better than that, then I'm very impressed. And that's fine, because the whole point of this test is to get us on the same level, you see, before we start actually talking about project management. So I'll just go through some of the answers. Of course, this is the obvious one, isn't it? If you know anything about projects, I hope you know the definition of a project is that it's a temporary endeavour undertaken to create a unique product or service or result. It's quite generic, isn't it? But the really key thing here is that a project is not production. So the word that really gave it away, wasn't it, was production of automobile tyres. So if you're doing something all the time, you're manufacturing. It's production. And those of you who are doing manufacturing, of course, learn about that all the time. But a project is different. So much for that one. So in the beginning of the project, the very beginning, when you're working out the scope, when you're defining the objectives, when you're finding the stakeholders, deciding who the sponsor is, all of these things that happen at the beginning are called defining. There's a slightly broader term, actually, which includes defining, and that's initiation. So you will also hear this beginning phase of a project called initiation. But initiation is actually something bigger than defining. It includes, the key thing is authorization, actually. But I've got a slide about that later, so I'll tell you about authorization later. This, my God, if you've done group work at this university, probably every single lecturer tells you about forming, storming, performing, norming, and mourning or adjourning, right? Who's heard that before? Yeah, good. Well, not many of you, come on. Surely. Okay, well, it was new and interesting then, wasn't it? This is absolute management dogma, this thing. So it belongs at the beginning of the course. I'm not going to teach you this as some kind of fancy learning outcome, because you really need to know this. And it's even on Wikipedia. I suppose I should just check what it means, right? And so when you put a group of people together, they start off kind of not really knowing each other and not really knowing what to say, and kind of treading on eggshells and tiptoeing around each other. And that's forming. That's the very beginning. So you're just kind of getting used to each other. And then the next stage is storming, right? So after you've started to just get used to each other very gently, then you start communicating better. But when you start communicating better, you start having arguments and you start fighting and stuff. So that's storming. And you're also trying to work out different roles for the people in the team is storming. Hopefully, after you go through storming, you can start performing, which means you start getting things done. The team is working. Okay. And then after the performing stage, which is fun, you actually go into this adjourning or mourning stage even. Some management texts call it mourning, which is a bit sad, isn't it? But it's actually true. When you get to kind of the back end of a project with a team, you can often find that people get disengaged and get a bit sad and sort of stop. Their kind of level of commitment to the team actually goes down as you get near the end of the project. And that's because they know it's going to end. Maybe they're sad it's going to end. Also, why should you try, right? Because you're going to go soon. That's the mourning stage. Now, the PMBOK guide, if you did the pre-reading, you'll see there was an introduction to the PMBOK guide, which particularly said what it was. So this is, I guess if we have a core text for this course, it is actually the PMBOK guide, because I suppose that's my main qualification as well. That's the kind of project management I learned. And look, it's not perfect. It's quite dry and conservative kind of project management in PMBOK. But what it is this wonderful compendium of pointers to other things. And it's often thought to be a methodology, like a prescriptive methodology. So people think that the PMBOK guide, this project management body of knowledge, which is a kind of internationally known textbook for project management, is like a recipe. And you have to go from the beginning of the book to the back of the book to do a project. That's actually not true at all. All it is a collection of highlighted, generally recognized good practice. And I really hope that you read that bit of the guide to kind of find out how to use it. Because it's important to realize in project management that you should pick and choose. Okay? You shouldn't feel that you have to do it this like a particular recipe. You should always pick and choose, because you can use different tools for different projects. Okay? Right, the key thing about a deliverable is that you can check it. Okay? You can measure it. So these other things, D, well, actually, it could be a combination of other services. For example, a deliverable could be, goodness, I don't know, a university course, okay? Could be a deliverable, very big one. And that is obviously a combination of other services, isn't it? Look at all the people here making the course work. But it could still be a deliverable. It doesn't, just because it's a deliverable doesn't mean you can't break it down. A deliverable also, okay, never includes repetitive elements is wrong, because a deliverable can be repetitive. So you can have multiple deliverables in a project that are all the same. I heard a wonderful lecture once by a project manager who installed all the magnets in CERN. Okay, you know the particle accelerator in Switzerland? And they installed hundreds of superconducting magnets. And every one was incredibly difficult and incredibly exacting to install. And they were all deliverables, and they were all exactly the same. But they were still deliverables. Okay, so the key thing about deliverable is that you can verify whether it's there or not. This is an interesting one, because I've got a bit about what it's like to be a project manager later on. Is being a project manager has lots of fun things. You know, it's really fun, exciting. You get to deliver projects. You get to execute strategy. You have to make a lot of leadership kind of decisions. So you do almost everything in an organization, actually, from as soon as the strategy comes into being right down to actually executing the strategy and making it happening. But the one thing you don't really do is develop new strategy. So it's a bit like, I don't know what it's like. It's not exactly like being a soldier, being a project manager, but it's kind of like being a major maybe in the army. Like, you don't really make the big decisions. It's all about execution. So there's someone above you. There's the steering committee, there's the sponsor, there's the executive committee of your company, who basically tell you what to do. And what you do is if you have a problem, you elevate information to that level and you can get answers back down. But in terms of strategic decisions about the enterprise as a whole, you don't really do that as a project manager. So it's exciting, it's challenging, it's rewarding, it's all of these things, but you don't really get to steer the direction of the company. I shouldn't say it like but. Maybe you don't want to. It's actually, being a project manager is a great thing to do early in your career because you get to learn how stuff works and you get to practice things. And then maybe later on you want to try something else. So this question, there's in the chapters I told you to read in PMBOK, it's chapter 1 to 3, isn't it? I can't remember which chapter it is, but there's a table. There's this table which compares leadership to management. Okay? And management particularly was described as determining how and when. So you don't determine, as a leader, as leadership, you're just trying to figure out what and why, and you're doing the right things. As a manager, you decide how and when, and you try and do things right. And as a project manager, you're a bit of both, of leader and manager. This one, yeah, I mean, Bernie's going to do it next week, right? And this is actually connected with organizational structures, this question, but it's still something that's worth asking now because it's connected to the role of the project manager. Very, very often as a project manager, you don't have a lot of organizational power. Like, you're not necessarily endowed with this kind of leadership authority that says, like, I'm going to tell these people to do this stuff and they have to do it. It's very rarely like that. What it's more often like is that you using kind of clever team psychology and getting people together to pull in the right direction, you have to persuade them to work on your project. Like, you may have money to pay their wages, but actually getting them to do things and getting people to kind of work as a team and gather around the shared objectives of the project is actually by personal skills, soft skills, if you like. And that's another thing which I think is often not always super well understood, right, is that the project manager doesn't have heaps of power, and really you're trying to coax people into doing stuff. The program question. Yes. Programs are groups of projects, okay? So this diagram shows, look at the middle layer. So program A, program B, program A, program B1, program C. Programs are composed of individual projects, and when you take a group of programs together, it makes a portfolio. Now, this is describing the way that projects are managed in a program. The key thing is that, like, why would you put projects in a program? Okay, like, what makes you decide to group these projects together and say, oh, that's a program, and add another layer of management onto it? The answer is that if you coordinate these projects, you get more benefits. So by coordinating the projects, you might get reduced costs, or you might get better benefits at the end. And then that's why you make a program. Okay? Like, sometimes it's obvious. So a huge program, like, imagine, I don't know, building a power station, okay? Building a chemical plant. This is a vast program. It's made up out of possibly hundreds of individual projects, but they're all managed together, so they fit together and make this greater whole. Now, a stage gate review, okay, so what this question is not about is the difference between waterfall project management and agile. This is more about checkpoints that you put along the way of a project to decide whether to proceed or not. Okay? So it doesn't mean, so a stage gate review doesn't mean that the project is iterative and you're working out the scope at each time. It means that you're actually putting these checkpoints along to decide whether to proceed or not. So there we go. That's the end of the answers.
I have a question about the nemesis question.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I don't know why the answer is A, because the coding has said if a soldier not to want to be a general, you're not a good
Oh, okay.
If you are a project manager, if you're not thinking like the committee thinks to make new strategies, then I think you're not a good project manager.
Okay, the question is all the best soldiers want to be a general, so why doesn't the project manager try to be an executive? Is that right?
Yeah, but I mean, you have to think like maybe on the boss thinking like to develop new strategies.
Okay, well, I think you mean D, right?
I just don't know why.
You see, okay, D, right, what you're saying is a project manager should, I think you're saying a project manager should do D. And I absolutely agree with you, a project manager should do D. But, okay, maybe I could give you an example. There's some things when you're a project manager that you just can't do. Like, say you set up a contractual arrangement with a supplier, okay, as part of your project. Say you're procuring some equipment from a supplier, and you're managing that contract, okay? Maybe you get along really well with the company you're managing, like you all become friends. That's actually very likely because you're working together all the time. And maybe, like during the process of working together with this company, you kind of start to see things their way a bit. Like that could happen, right? Couldn't it?
I'm trying to.
Yeah. I'm sort of just telling a story, right? And then maybe your friend who you're actually employing, so maybe your partner project manager in your supplier, says to you, well, look, I know you want to get this project done on time, and I know it's really difficult, but like, couldn't we just like, say, change this acceptance test or something of the equipment? Because if you made it a bit easier for us to deliver this piece of equipment, we could deliver it much faster and your project would get done on time, okay? And it's very easy to think when you're a project manager that that would actually be a good idea, because you start to think, I'm trying to get the project done. And you think, well, fine, I'm advocating for the project, yeah? It's my project. I'm going to make this decision that gets the project done faster, that gets the project done better. But if you did that, you'd be wrong, okay? Because it's not your project, it's your sponsor's project. And you're not actually, you don't really ever own the project. You're really just an agent of the sponsor to carry the project out. So changes like that would be wrong, and you'd have to elevate that to the steering committee of your project to decide if they wanted to change the specifications. I know it's a subtle thing, right? Because I'm absolutely not telling you that a project manager shouldn't think strategically. You must think strategically. You must get stuff done. But there's this kind of boundary where you can't really decide a new strategy for your company, even if it seems to make perfect sense for your project. Okay? Good question. Thank you. So now we're doing week one, right? This is the actual lecture, and I'm still on time. So off we go. We've done all this. So I wanted to give you an idea. Like, I don't know if you've thought of this, right? I don't know. Like, I know all you guys kind of have to do this course, right? Like, most of you are computer scientists. And you're like thinking, oh man, I've got to do this project management course. Jesus. I know what it's like, okay? Because project management can be so boring, you know? Like, really. Like, just reading Pingbok, you realize that. It's like, oh, God. What is this stuff? Another block diagram. But it's actually a career too. I don't know if you thought of that. And it's not a bad one. Honestly, it's not a bad career. And it's certainly a good way to develop some skills to lead on to other things. Because I've got to remember, right, I'm talking to like a room full of master's university graduates in a good university. So realistically, I don't know if you actually want to like just do project management your whole life long. But like seriously, it's a really good thing to have tried for a while and go somewhere else. And I know, so it's obviously valuable to Australia, right? Look, because I checked this immigration skilled occupations list, and these 4 job titles all contain the word project. So if you're a construction project manager, an ICT PM, a program or project administrator, or a project builder, which is like construction, right? This is actually one of the things they give you loads of points for in Australia as well, for immigrating. Then on the right, this is a survey done by the Project Management Institute of salaries of project managers. And it's not as good as being an investment banker, but so look, there's Australia, and it's worth about 100, like median salary for project managers in Australia is about 100,000 US per year. So that's about 150 Australian dollars salary, which I think is about right. So there are lots of different types of projects. You know by now, I mean, because you're all modern people, you all know that everything's a project these days. It didn't used to be, but nowadays almost everything's a project. So software development, systems engineering, aerospace, I won't read it. But there are some interesting things down the, hang on, there's some interesting things down the bottom right, okay? So, like, did you know that restructuring and change management was also project management? It's actually, it's a whole, I'm just plugging in the laser thing. It's a whole area of project management is managing change in organizations. So, and it's actually very challenging. So you imagine, so you want to restructure a company or something and change all the departments around and get everyone doing different job titles. That would be run by a change manager. So there are change management professionals, but change management is like this close to project management. It's just got more of the kind of human factors and people skills and organizational psychology in it, and maybe less of the kind of configuration management and specification writing and engineering stuff. But project management absolutely kind of leads into change management and restructuring. And then things like this that, like obviously, right, events, having a big concert or something would be a project management job. So I think what I'm saying is that one of the benefits of being a project manager is that in your single profession, you could actually work in any of these areas. And I don't know if anyone else can really do that. And there are more and more projects around all the time. Okay, this is rather an advert for project management, because this is taken from PMI, the Project Management Institute. But it's still quite an interesting idea, and I wanted to try explaining the idea to you that you know, we hear again and again that change is happening everywhere, like everything's changing. Change is faster. There's more technology, more change. What that means is that actually businesses now have to change much faster than they ever did, because if you can't change, you get left behind. So how does an organization change? By doing projects, okay? How does an organization do new stuff? By rolling out projects faster. So that's why project management is getting very important, increasingly important in the economy, because everything changes so fast. And I said earlier, change management is one of the challenging aspects of being PM. So there's a funny kind of feedback thing there, isn't there? That we're saying projects are used because the world is changing and they're really good at change. But actually, when you're running a project and it starts changing, it's one of the hardest things. So what's it like being a project manager? I think I said already. I've compared this course to in the workplace. So what's this course made out of? Mostly it's made out of new language. So if you're good at learning languages, this course is going to be really easy, because if you just learn all the words, you'll be sort of 3/4 of the way there. There's quite a lot of systems and processes. If you're good at system thinking, like boxes and arrows, you'll find it easy as well. And there's a little bit of hardish stuff, like a few of the financial calculations and the scheduling, but not very much. In the workplace, it's slightly different. So this is the course. This is what you end up having to do. So you manage business. There's this bit. So the technical project management is probably what I'm talking about here that we learn on this course. And then you've got this element of leadership too. But the question always is, what actually is leadership? It's really hard to define. We talk about it a lot, but it's pretty hard to find a hard and fast definition of what leadership is. Anyway, back to technical project management. So project management is broken down. God, I'm getting sick of saying project management. I don't know. It's broken down into, I'll just say it maybe. It's broken down into these like different stages of the life cycle, okay? So, and you can see from this diagram, this is meant to show you that they happen in order. So first you do initiation, then you do planning, then executing, monitoring, and then closing. But the other thing is they're not completely discrete. So at the beginning, you'll do the initiation process, and you'll do it for a while. And then that slowly gets overtaken by planning, and planning slowly gets overtaken by executing. Now, the beginning of the project is actually really easy, because seriously, anyone can make a plan, right? Budget, schedule, work breakdown structure, who can't do that? Then it gets really hard, because once you actually start executing the project, once you start doing stuff, everything changes, and you have to throw your plan out the window. Not completely. You mustn't throw it out the window because it becomes your baseline on the project, but you have to keep on changing it all the time. And people want new stuff, and people want different stuff. And it just becomes really hard. So you have this kind of wonderful full sense of security at the beginning when you're making a plan and everything's going to be perfect. And then in the end, that's when it gets really testing. And I really, really hope that in this course we can teach you some of the stuff from the right-hand side, because, like, seriously, it's not going to be that rewarding if we just teach you how to make a schedule on the left-hand side. And this is back to my point, the old almost anyone can write a project plan. Yeah, so I'm really going to try and smash through the contents of a project plan on one slide, okay? Hopefully to set you up for the rest of the course. So you begin with a project plan with a project charter, okay? And the project charter has lots of things in it, but these are some of the important things. So you state the scope of the project, the analysis of all the stakeholders, like who are the important people, who do we have to look after, who are we trying to please, requirements, constraints, and authorization. That's the key thing. So the whole point of making a project charter is to get the project started. And then you get authorization, which means that somebody signs the check for you, metaphorically. You know, they give you the budget. Then the next stage of a project plan is you need to define the scope. So you need to work out your deliverables, your scope statement, and break it down into individual work packages by making the work breakdown structure. Okay? Then we've got cost management. So you estimate cost, you estimate how much resources you'll need to do the work. And you must also estimate duration. And this gets into making your schedule, okay? So you estimate the duration of all your work and the dependencies. So what you have to do before this or that, or what you have to do next. And then you can make your schedule because you know what's involved and you know the order you have to do it. Okay? Finally, you get down to risk management. So you have to think of all the things that could possibly go wrong. And there are many. Okay? So you make a big risk register, which is like a list of all the things that could go wrong in your project. And as a part of your risk management, you come up with contingency plans. Okay? So you must decide, oh, if something goes wrong in this way, I can deal with it like this. Okay? Or if something goes wrong some other way, oh, I have to do this. And you build all this into your project plan. So if something goes wrong, hopefully, you will have thought of it already and you'll know what to do. And also in engineering projects, you might have a quality plan. So how you're going to test everything to make sure it's working properly. And you also need a communication plan, always. So project management is largely about communication. So this is part of your project plan. And then when you've got all that together, off you go. But it's not quite right, okay? Because there's this key thing on the left, right? So probably the real subtlety with making a project plan is that it always has to be a little bit iterative, okay? It can't just be like one process from the beginning to the end, because the really important thing is your quality plan and your contingency plans and other things like your communication plan are scope, aren't they? It's all stuff you have to do. So you must be absolutely certain to feed that back into your scope, and then, of course, your deliverables, your work breakdown structure, your cost and your duration and your time and everything. Otherwise, your project plan's not going to make sense, okay? So I think that's the learning outcome for this slide. Although I've listed the project plan, which we'll find probably again and again during this course, the key thing here is that it's iterative, because particularly your contingency plans need money. Like, you can't have a contingency plan unless you've got money there to do it. So it's going to affect the cost of the project. And so always, what the project manager must always say when people want new stuff or they want to change things is you say, I'll look into that for you. Okay, you don't say yes. You say, I'll look into it. And that means that you see what the effect is on the whole project as a whole. Now, we shall do something about, just okay. Sorry, that was a bit rushed. I suddenly felt I might be running out of time, so I did it really fast. Does anyone have any questions about the last slide? No? Okay, so we've done, today's an introduction, right, isn't it? So we've done the basic project plan and the life cycle of a project, so these basic steps you have to go through. The other thing that we have to look at for an introduction is the team structure, just basic, like, so who is the project? Like, who is the project team? And like, you know, and who are they not? And the reason that you need to make project teams, I think this is, I don't know if this is like the official way of thinking about stuff, but I think it's how I think about stuff. It's like, why can't you just make a massive team of people, okay, and then everyone just like does everything together? The reason that doesn't work is because you get this terrible complexity. So imagine if you're just 3 people going to do something, you need 3 communication channels, right, don't you, between those 3 dots. If you've got 4 people, you need 6 communication channels. Imagine if you're drawing lines between the dots, right, there'd be 6 lines, wouldn't there? 10 people need 10 communication channels. Sorry, 5 people need 10 communication channels. And then on and on and on. So that's like 5. So 8 people, there's actually 28 communication channels. So you can see that very quickly your ability to make decisions and get things done as you have more and more people gets harder and harder. So therefore, it's essential on big projects, on big, temporary endeavors, that you need to break this huge team of people down into some kind of structure in order to manage things. And this is like so this idea is the precursor to the organizational structures that we'll discuss next week. Yeah, well, I think I've said it. That's okay. So you break it down. So you have to form a structure. What is the structure you form in a project team? Okay, it's like this. So let's start with the project manager, the PM. There you are. That's you. Okay. And as PM, your most important relationship with anyone at work is your sponsor. Okay. So the sponsor is the person who has the money, who holds the budget, who approved this project. So when you wrote your project charter and you got this green light that the project was going to go ahead, there was some key person who said yes. Who said, yes, we're going to do this project. And they had the authority over the account funds that you're going to use to spend on the project. That person is the sponsor. And the sponsor is a pretty, it should be a pretty clear line of authority because it really follows the money. Okay, it's the, It's the person with the checkbook. Okay? The sponsor will be working with a steering committee. Okay? So the steering committee are not there all the time. They convene every now and then when the project needs to make an important decision. So your line to the sponsor is crucial because it's also your line to the steering committee. And when you have an important question or problem to solve, you ask them, okay? But they're not there all the time. They're just sort of there when you need them. And then as the PM, you gather this team of people around you. But who are they? Often, well, apart from you may have like professional administrative support to help you execute the project, you know, sort of document writing and scheduling and budgeting and all that. But they're not really the people I've drawn. The people I've drawn here are subject matter experts, okay? So these are people who will come into your project team from another technical team and help you with planning the work, okay? So this other technical team, it could be a subcontractor to you, it could be a partner company, or it could just be another division in your company. I'm not really saying who it is, but it's just that there will be members of your project team who come from somewhere else, okay? And they come in and they join the project team, and then you make the plans together. You make all the plans here. But with not too many people, so you shouldn't have a project team with like 12 people in it, because it'll be far too unwieldy. You need to have a really functional team here that gets stuff done, okay? And that's who they are. Now I'm changing tack a bit. I'm going to talk about this course. So these are the learning outcomes for this course that you saw in the course outline. I'm probably not going to read them to you, but it's important. It's important that you read them. And you can see that we've got management. Really, I think we should have leadership in here as well, but we don't, actually. That's why I'm really tacking the leadership stuff on the end. So the leadership stuff is kind of optional, but we do need to have management styles. You need to be able to select, not just use tools, but select them. So you need to know what kind of project management tools are useful for different things and be able to like pick them out of the toolbox depending on what you're doing. And create plans and know stuff as well. I mean, this is knowledge, right? You need to know all these roles, responsibilities, and tools. Now, there are lots and lots of changes in this course for last year. Like, who had some expectations about what this course would be like? Like, did you know people who took it last year? No? Everyone's completely fresh and new. Okay. But it is quite different, right? So we're using this funny team-based learning business, which is what I was making you do earlier, was do those tests. And we're not going to stop doing that. But it's not every week, okay? I've got a schedule for the course later. So we're going to go through this cycle every module, but not every week, because there's more weeks than there are modules. We've moved the whole course onto Microsoft Teams, because I sincerely hope that you lot will communicate with each other when you're not here. And the way to do that is through something like Teams, okay? There is no big, long written assignment. This was quite a major move we did. So last year they had this huge kind of imaginary make-your-own project assignment. But we're not doing that. We're doing everything in class instead. And we're going to do a much harder exam to kind of make up for not doing the project. Because last year the exam was all multiple choice, but this year it's going to have a long answer in it. So you have to kind of write a little essay about something in the exam. Okay? And also, I've cancelled this very expensive textbook that everyone had to buy last year, which I know was very unpopular. So now we're using e-resources, and you can find all the resources for the course through the Teams page, okay, because it links out to the library. Now, what is this team-based learning business? So the team-based learning works by this kind of life cycle. So at the beginning of, well, before the class, I should mention, that's really important, you need to prepare. So doing the pre-reading for the course is really, really important because it's actually an integral part of your learning. It's not a kind of optional extra. Because when you come to class at the beginning of a module, you'll have to do those multiple choice tests. Okay? And that gets everyone up onto this kind of understanding level, hopefully, so we can then talk about stuff. Then, after the multiple choice test, we do something a bit harder, which is like a single question, but one that lasts a bit longer. And the idea is that you have to discuss it, and it will, as the course goes on, it'll probably involve some calculations and some, some decisions, some application of what we're learning, like calculating net present value of a project or something, or calculating the schedule. And all that sort of stuff we're going to do here. Okay? We're not going to do it outside and then hand it in and come here and sit and listen. We're going to do it here. Okay? So if any of you, kind of fashionable teaching ideas at the minute, this is a flipped classroom. All right? Because you do your work here and you do your learning outside, rather than doing your work outside and sitting and trying to learn here. All right, well, these slides just tell you what the tests we've done are. So we did the individual readiness assurance test and the team readiness assurance test. Oh, actually, I'm fine. Okay. No, I will talk about this. I've got time. Although it's just what I said, isn't it? So the purpose of these readiness assurance tests is this, really. They is you, by the way, because this was a presentation for other lecturers. I copied it. So they means you. So the students are comfortable with key concepts, and it ensures, hopefully, that you're ready for actually solving problems when you come to class, is the idea. And this thing is important, this idea of giving you immediate feedback. So I apologise, some things are a bit rusty today. Well, not rusty, a bit incomplete, perhaps. And I know it didn't work perfectly. But what we really, really want to do is, as soon as you do that test, I need to see the results at the front, you see, and then I'll know, or Bernie will know, like the answers that you all got wrong or the answers that you all got right. And then directly we address those answers, okay? So all the feedback is meant to come instantly. So you shouldn't have to wait for feedback on this course. Because, I mean, it's not just to make you happy, it's also really well known that we learn more when the feedback comes straight away. Okay, it's just learning, it's pedagogy, right? You learn. If someone corrects your mistake straight away, then you learn something. If it takes a week to correct your mistake, you've already forgotten it by the time the correction comes. So then there's the application exercise. So you've seen I've been sprinkling AE around the course. And the application exercise is this. This is the key thing, 4S. It's a 4S assignment. So we, that is me, Bernie, Jingying, Ali, all the demonstrators, we need to think of problems for you to solve that are significant, okay? So we want these application exercises not to be silly, easy questions. We want them to be horrible, hard questions. But doable, okay? I mean, they have to be reasonable, but they shouldn't just be super easy. The other thing is you all work on the same problem, okay? And then you have a specific choice. So at the end of the problem, you're all going to come up with an answer. And you say, this is the answer, and everyone's going to do that together. And the reason that we do that, the reason you have this simultaneous delivery, is because afterwards, after you deliver your answer to the application exercise, then we have to talk about it, okay? Reporting is start of the discussion. It's not like you have the answer and then we all pack up and go home. It's like you've got to deliver the answer and then we want to talk about the answer, okay? That's the aim. Now we may not always achieve that aim, okay? But that's what we're trying to do. And so, what really made me want to try team-based learning this year is this, okay? Is that we get such bad feedback about group work. It's like, I know in the end it's kind of okay, you might make friends and you might get it done in the end, but it's pretty painful, isn't it, group work? I can see some people smiling. Good. I think so too, right? And these are probably the reasons why group work is so painful, because you feel that you get people who can't be bothered in your team. It's hard to find each other, right? This communication thing. The poor communication is not just because you don't talk to each other. You probably do talk to each other. The problem is you're just not here. Like, you're really busy. So So you're all, it's like all wrong. You're all really busy you're all together in the class, but you're not working together. So you're all together in the class, but you don't work together in conventional like lecturing. And then when you leave the class, you all disappear and scatter across Sydney, and you can't find each other again. So how are you meant to work together? So hopefully team-based learning addresses some of these problems, right? So these match up, okay? It's like A goes to A. So for this kind of contribution thing, we're going to do a peer review assessment. I think we'll probably do it in week, did I say 8? I think I said 8 in the course outline, didn't I? So you're going to provide peer review to the people in your teams. So you'll all get some feedback about how you're doing. And it will affect your marks as well. So the poor communication. So we try to do our communication in the class on this course. We're not trying to make you communicate when you're not here, which is difficult. We're trying to get you to communicate when you are here, which hopefully is easy because you're all here, right? And the teams and abilities, right, Ali and I, but particularly Ali, hello Ali, has gone to enormous effort to try and make teams that are balanced, okay? That's why it was such a headache at the beginning. The teams are not random. The teams are actually planned, depending on your backgrounds and things like that. Because I was trying to make you do that survey, right? I was plugging you all to do that survey. And the teams are not going to change. So remember forming, storming, norming, remember all that? Okay? If you break a team or you change a team, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of that cycle and start again with forming, storming, norming, okay? So we're not going to do that. The teams are going to stay the same. So hopefully by the end of the course, you will actually get through that cycle and be able to do things together. This is the structure of the course. So it's quite multicolored, but look, you have this now, okay, so you can look at this too. I don't need to talk through the whole thing. I'll just tell you what we're doing today, and then the colours kind of match up for the rest of the weeks too. So we did the individual readiness assurance test, we did the TRAT. Discussion and appeal is interesting. So the idea with discuss and appeal is that if you think that you've got a better answer or that you think we did it wrong, you need to say, okay? So if you write a written... I wrote this in the course outline, didn't I? Hopefully some of you read it in the course outline. If you think that it's a dumb question and that you should have got the answer right, you must tell us. And if you write that down, that's called an appeal. And we'll look at the appeal and well, if you've written it properly, we'll probably agree with you and give you the mark, okay? So the questions are not completely fixed, right? The questions can be discussed if you write down your argument. So then we're doing the lecture, that's where we are now. And then we're going to have a go at an application exercise at 8 o'clock, so I've only got 10 minutes left. Then we discuss it, and then, well, free time, I'm afraid I'm going to keep on talking because I wanted to say something about leadership in free time. But we will finish at 9 o'clock. So you can see that's then the layout for the rest of the course, isn't it? There's a couple of slight differences. So notice here, between week 4 and 5, this application exercise finishes here, and you might be able to do some work on it at home if you like. So that's a kind of opportunity for the team to work outside the class. But seriously, if you work hard in the class, you may not even need this. Okay, it's not mandatory. But we're kind of setting it up so there is that opportunity to carry something over from week 4 to week 5. Now, seeing as we're talking about education, I'm going to talk even more about education. But hey, seriously, it's important, right? Because all of this stuff, all of this management, to actually know something about how to educate people and how to train people is absolutely vital to management, right? So when you're managing a team, when you have a team of people working for you, you're going to have to train them. So it's not wasted that I tell you a bit about education. Now, the way that we often classify learning outcomes, so remember we looked at the learning outcomes before, okay, is with something called Bloom's taxonomy. And there's these different levels. Who's heard of, what is it? What's that it's the sociological thing. It's Maslow, isn't it? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you go from like food, clothing, shelter. What is it? I can't remember. I'm sure you can. Food, clothing, shelter, and then you have money, and then you have fun, and then you have kind of self-actualization at the top if you're really super successful. Well, this is a bit similar, okay? Well, it's not, but it's the same idea. It's this like hierarchy of learning, is that you start with knowledge, and knowledge is remembering stuff, okay? If you're able to remember stuff, then you might be able to understand it. If you understand it, you might be able to apply it, okay? Once you can apply stuff, then you can do analysis. You can apply your skills to different things, and you can actually analyze the difference. So this is getting more advanced, right? So you're going from the bottom, which is basic, up to more and more advanced skills. And then if you're able to analyze stuff, then you get to a level of learning which is called synthesis. And synthesis is when you're like bringing lots of different things together and making new knowledge. So synthesis is something like actually writing a project, creating a project plan is synthesis, because you're synthesizing all this different information around you and you're making something new. That's synthesizing. Okay? The highest level of learning is evaluation. So when you've done all of this, you should actually be able to judge how good things